Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Ask a Death Doula. I am your host, Suzanne B. O'Brien. I am so inspired by our guest today and the work that he is doing. So let me share with you that today our guest is Rodrigo Luz. He is the president of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, the chapter in Brazil. And as many of you know who follow this podcast, we are all about following the movement and helping to change end of life for the better for people everywhere. That's worldwide. This is something we have in common. This is our humanity. And to be there for one another is one of the best things we can do, probably now more than ever. So you are going to be extremely inspired, as I am, by our guest today and what he's doing with his organization. So without further ado, I want to welcome Rodrigo Luz to the Ask a Death Doula podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you really much, my dear. My English is not perfect. I have a Brazilian accent, you know, and of course I'm going to do my best.
Absolutely.
I'm not perfect at all. And I'm here to share. This is the meaning of my life, you know, so thank you very much about this.
Thank you for being here. Your passion is absolutely infectious. It's everything. And I have to say, sometimes I feel like my English is not so good either. So do not worry about it. Do not worry about it. My son says, sometimes you make up your own words. I don't know if that's really true, but okay. So it's going to be wonderful. So Rodrigo, I was reading about you. First of all, I've heard so many wonderful things about you and your organization. So that's fantastic. And then I was reading about you, and every single thing I was reading that your organization is doing, I was like, yes, that is wonderful. So lots of people know that I have been working in this field for over 2 decades. And, you know, I have a hospice nurse background and an oncology cancer background. And so many of the things that you're talking about, we're all facing all over the world. So I want to just share, first of all, a little bit about your background and how you came into this beautiful sacred work, this area. What drew you to it?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much about this question. Mm-hmm. Look at that. I have an aunt called Rosette, and she died. And after that, I've gone to therapy, an existential therapist, and she gave to me a book called On Death and Dying of Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. I was 16.
Wow.
I've read that book at just one night, and I thought to myself, I need to do this job. I'm going to do this. So I started doing this job when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And I'm doing this right now. And it's very emotional memory, you know, because I remember that night, I've told myself I'm going to do this. And so I'm doing, you know, it's not difficult, just doing.
I love that. And I think that it's beautiful how something that causes us, you know, an emotion of pain and suffering, which is, again, part of our life's journey, but you turn it into a gift in the honor of your aunt, because she kind of brought that alignment with you. And now you're helping so many people in kind of her honor, which is really, I think, so healing and lovely. But 16, that's incredible. And I think that I agree with you. I remember the very first day that I went out and saw my very first hospice patient. And I remember it clear as day, and I thought, I found it. This is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I've never looked back. So that's beautiful. Let's talk about Elisabeth Kübler-Ross for a minute. We're going to talk about her through the whole podcast.
Okay.
She's, you know, she's one of my heroes. She had such an impact on me and my direction when I was a young nurse working with the elderly and getting into hospice and finding the struggle, the cultural struggle, the pain, the additional pain for families, and also, you know, working with doctors within the system, and trying to bring back the fact that death is a natural part of the journey, and that perhaps we shouldn't try everything to extend it, that the quality of life, and there was so much more going on. And I really delved into her works, and she gave me such strength because she has such strength and courage. You know, she's the woman who I thank for what we're seeing now, the positive, you know, all the seeds that she planted are really just blossoming all over, and it's because of her. Yeah. Yeah, so bringing her timely work, it's timeless into everything that we talk about, is really an honor to be able to share her work.
Exactly, perfect. And let me talk just one little thing. I think it's an important thing. Yes. Elisabeth did a great job. She was an excellent woman. But I think in her dreams about the future, she believed the most important is the born of a new doers. You know?
Yeah.
She didn't like, you know, just talking about her life and how she was a great, wonderful, and a wonderful woman. She was a doer, and she loves doers, you know. And of course, I agree with you. She had a wonderful life, taking care of the dying children and the AIDS crisis, you know, and taking care of hospital patients and deaf and dying seminars, and listen the dying patients, and teaching us and guiding us, of course. A wonderful life, a wonderful experience, and her life inspires everyone in every part of the country and the world, you know. But of course, she wants hands, you know, to change the reality.
Sure.
So we are trying to do this, and of course you are trying to.
Yeah, I think we're doing it. I think, you know, when I started this, and this is now, a lot of people are talking about this again, which is really wonderful, and they're accepting it, and which is beautiful. And I always, back in the day, was saying just one patient at a time, because sometimes it seems so big, but it's happening. So I think we are doing it, and I think that she'd be very pleased with that. So it's wonderful. Okay, so you found your calling at 16 and followed that path. So now I want to share and ask you a question about, in your country, how accepted is hospice, and how available is hospice and palliative care?
We are starting the hospice movement here in Brazil.
Okay.
Of course, we had important pioneers.
Yeah.
We had a teacher professor on the 70s. She was at the university, the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and she was called Vilma da Costa Torres, and she started the deaf movement here in Brazil. We had another important pioneers, but of course the movement is still small, and the movement grew a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, maybe. Okay. But we don't have a lot of hospices. We have a small initiatives, right. And we have services, but still a small number of services of palliative care. I think in Brazil we have something about 180 services.
Yeah.
So we have continental place here in Brazil, and small number of services. So we are just starting the hospice movement here.
Okay, and how is your aging population? Do you have a very large number of people in the elderly population, as we're seeing pretty much worldwide, that are going to need that? Yeah, of course.
Exactly, this is the challenge. Oh,
yes.
This is the big and the real challenge here in Brazil. We are facing very difficult times, but I see these difficult times with a lot of hope.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think the solution is to build a compassionate community and starting a movement. So we must see death with hope, you know,
Sure.
in our life. So I think it's the message of Elisabeth. Put hope in your eyes and everything changed, you know.
I agree. So we're seeing the same thing here as far as our aging population. Hospice has been around for, you know, a while now, but it's still not matching the need and not doing it as well as we would hope, just because of the structure. But I agree with you on the sense that there is lots of hope. There's lots of promise, because if we can get out there and create compassionate community amongst ourselves, if we can teach volunteers, if we can teach family how to care for their loved one and bring back the conversation, then we can have support in every corner of every world, because we're doing it. Yeah. So that leads me to my next question is, your Elisabeth Kubler-Ross chapter in Brazil, you write that the creation of compassionate community for palliative care, assistance to the most vulnerable population. And I love that. I love that so much. Can you speak to the vulnerable population, what that means, please?
Of course. Look at that. In Rio de Janeiro, we have a very big favela. It's a very poor community. Rio. It's called Rocinha. And we are going to start a hospice there in name of Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. So it's going to be a very important hospice, the first one in a poor area in Brazil.
Beautiful.
So we are going to start this hospice with a lot of help. We have a group, of course. It's not just about us, you know. We have an important group. And of course, the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation is giving the support and orientation, you know. The meeting of this group is on the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation in Copacabana.
Beautiful.
Yes, but of course, we are training volunteers and starting bed coffees in Brazil and talking to everyone about end-of-life care and Elisabeth's ideas, and of course, making her ideas being known about by everyone, you know?
Sure.
Yes, so
I love it.
We are starting this in Rocinha and in Vidigal. These both poor communities are very, very, very vulnerable, and they don't have anything. Really, it's a very, very bad situation, and we have to do something about it.
Sure. So that leads me to asking about, how is your healthcare system structured there?
Yes, we have a universal healthcare system here in Brazil, but we have a lot of problems because it's a violent area too. And this violent area is involved with drugs and every kind of crime, you know, situation. So we are facing this challenge, but of course we have a lot of dying patients there too.
Sure.
And we have to do something about it because they are dying without any kind of assistance, medical assistance, psychological assistance, and we have to do something about it, and we are going to do this.
Beautiful. I love that. And I know that myself and anyone listening who wants to help, we're going to share how you can support you and help. I think it's just wonderful what you're doing. I want to share inspiration, because for me in 2012, I was able to go to Zimbabwe, Africa, and volunteer. And when I did, they didn't have a lot of resources at all. They didn't even have a lot of food at that time, or now, whenever. But they did have what you're talking about, the presence, the compassion of teaching a neighbor how to care for that neighbor. And even without medicine, without medical equipment, it did so much. It was so beautiful and powerful that we can make this happen. So the two things I think about that I love that you're saying is that having the conversation with community. Because I find in the United States, death is the second leading fear. People are so scared of it, they don't want to utter it. Is it that the same in Brazil, or are we, yeah?
Perfect, the same, you know. We face a challenge here, it's called social pain.
Okay.
It's an invisible kind of pain.
Yes.
And this is an invisible suffering. And we need to see this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
to face it. So when we talk to them and when we go there and see the patients and help the community, they feel they are important for someone.
Oh, yes. You know, I think
so
sometimes,
the key point. This is the key point of the job.
I think so. I often teach, even in the United States, I teach that sometimes the most pain at end of life is the emotional pain.
Yes.
And it can cause physical pain.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I often say too, is that our presence, really truly seeing and hearing someone, is the best medicine we can give. It's very healing. So we can all do that, you know, if we choose to. It's beautiful. So that's wonderful. So you're going to train volunteers to care for patients that need hospice, and I love the fact that you said and bereavement.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we're forgetting the back end of that, the bereavement part. Can you share a little bit about the bereavement section as well?
Of course. We are already training them. And of course, we are going to start a new group in a few weeks. But we have a 70, 80 hours training program to volunteers. And we teach them a lot of things. And of course, we have to say a big thank you to the group of Mission Hospice in San Francisco, California, because they helped us a lot about this training with their manual, you know.
Great.
So this is a very feeling of gratitude, you know.
Yes.
And of course, we are training volunteers to help the dying, to help the families, and of course to take care of the people who faces the bereavement period, you know. And helping them to face the reality and to make the transition, the psychosocial transition of the grief process.
Yeah.
Of course, we are training these volunteers in counseling techniques, you know. And so in group or face-to-face or online kind of help. And we are training them, and they are going to start this kind of job in a very, very little period of time, you know.
Beautiful. So if somebody's interested in being a volunteer, how does that work? Where do they go? How long does that take? I know you just mentioned that it takes 78 hours or something. Can you share what that looks like and where they do that in Brazil?
Of course. We use social media asking for volunteers, and they can go to our website and send us an email. So we have a lot of interviews, and we need to understand better their intentions, understand better from where they are, and their past life, you know. We are very carefully about this.
Sure.
And of course, after that, they are going to start the training in Rio de Janeiro. They have a very important training on death and dying, on palliative care, on grief and bereavement, techniques of groups and counseling, and so it's a very interesting thing. Yes.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. Okay, so let's talk about your seminars on death and dying and how you interview the ill patients, following again the model of Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, who started this at the University of Chicago in 1960. when you hear from these wonderful people, and I love the fact that you said they are the teachers.
Yes, exactly.
Because they are the teachers.
Oh,
yes.
This is wonderful.
This is wonderful. So people really need to hear this, because we are discarding our elderly in our end of life, and they are the teachers. They have all of the wisdom. So let's talk about that, because I think that it's so powerful. It's beautiful. So share what these seminars are like, please.
Oh my God, I love them. Look at that.
Me too. Yeah.
Yes. When we started the chapter of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation here in Brazil, me and my colleague Daniela, we thought, oh my God, we need to start, but we're going to start in this very specific point of the deaf and dying seminars. Why not? Oh yes, this is a good idea, because Elisabeth started at this point. So we started. We invited dying patients, asked them to be your teachers, and invited healthcare professionals and medical students and nurses and social workers and occupational therapists and physical therapists and chaplains, and ask them to be our teachers.
Yes.
The dying and the people with very severe conditions of health, So we started this, and weekly we are interviewing the dying, asking them to be our teachers. And we do clinical interviews, with them, because we need to understand better their experience with the disease, the illness, the experience of the disease, how they experience this phase of life. So we need to understand better the meaning of their lives and the existential concerns. And of course, their ability to face the reality, the defense mechanisms, and they teach us about this, and they are very proud of this. We see the dying very proud of themselves, and it's a very important experience, because they leave the audience and they leave the room, and they say, "Oh my God, I'm a teacher." And this is very powerful, because I'm not just a dying patient. I'm not just a patient. I'm a teacher also.
I love that so much.
Very, 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 very profound experience of changing, of transformation.
For everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I love it.
When the patient leaves the audience, the real job, the real work begins. We talks about countertransference, countertransference, the emotional reaction to the interview. We talks about our own grief. We talks about our difficulties to listen. We talks about the process of the interview, the techniques we use it. We discuss a lot about everything. So this is a very powerful experience to everyone, to the patients, to the families, to the medical doctors, to the students. Everyone is so touched by this experience. So it's very nice.
I love that. That is so powerful and beautiful. And you do this every week?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Interviewing patients every week. So we don't have problems to find patients, because a lot of patients want to be interviewed. It's very interesting.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We don't have problems with that, because they find our WhatsApp number, and some of them just send us a message. Oh my God, I need to go there because another patient told me it's nice. So.
Oh, I love that. Do you know, Rodrigo, so many people are afraid to talk to the dying patient. And then and a lot of the practitioners even, they think that they know what the patient needs or the person needs, but we need to ask the person. Just ask them. And also I've seen where people talk over the person. They talk to the family, not the person, and the person is able to answer. So I love this. I think this is so beautiful, and I love that it helps everybody within that scenario. So I love that. That's very, very exciting. You want to create hospices again all throughout Brazil. What is your goal for your organization?
Yeah, we need to create these hospices, and of course help everyone in Brazil to do the same. Sure. Because look at that, the hospice idea is not ours, of course, but the foundation, of course, but the foundation can help. And this is our mission, help, help everyone to do this job and to make the hospice movement to grow. So we need, and this is our mission, to help dying patients and families. And of course, we are going to start with this hospice in Rocinha, in Vidigal, help who really need any kind of medical assistance and still don't have anything, Sure. So we're going to start in this point. And of course, we want to have a lot of Elisabeth's houses.
Yes.
In every part of Brazil, of course. But we are going to start in Rocinha. I think Elisabeth would approve that.
I think so too. I think she approves of all of this. So for me, it's important to understand that when we work together, when we help each other, that's where the magic happens. So when people can come out, if they have trainings, if they have finances, if they have supplies, whatever it is, or even raising awareness for each other, because the hospice movement is a life movement. Because some people to me say, oh, end of life, death, I don't want to talk about it. But it's talking about life. It's talking about human connection and getting real. So isn't it just something we all should be tapped into? I think so. So that's magical.
We have to make, Suzanne, this is very important. Florence Wald, I think she started the first hospice in Connecticut in America. She wrote a very beautiful text about Elisabeth in a book, a very special book called Tea with Elisabeth. And she wrote a very important text there talking about this synergy. We have to do synergy.
Yes.
So we have to make connections to help the patients. So the patient is our teachers, the patient is our reason, the patient is our objective, the patient is our God, So this is very important. This must be our philosophy, to serve, to help, and to make connections.
That's so great. And so I want to expand on that, because not just with the patient, but all of us, instead of being here and here, we all need to be in synergy. We all need to be focused on these beautiful objectives. That's what's going to change the world. And this is a part of doing that, which is really beautiful and exciting. So your workshops to help healthcare professionals, patients, families confront their unfinished business. And I know that we hear so much of this with Elisabeth Kubler-Ross and also with patients. When my patients at the end resolve issues, come to terms with regrets, come to acceptance, their end of life is so much more beautiful. So can you share with me how you facilitate that unfinished business to be resolved? What does that look like?
Of course, this is a very important point of Elisabeth's work and Elisabeth's legacy. Look at that. Unfinished business is something very important. The concept of the unfinished business is something very important. In Gestalt therapy, we call that the open Gestalt. we can live our life fully
Mm-hmm.
with unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when Elisabeth talked about the distorted emotions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when we live our lives based on fear, on anger, on another negative feelings,
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to face it. We have to see ourselves as we are. It's a very difficult task, but it's really needed. So
Sure.
I think as healthcare professionals, we have to see that. We have to see ourselves as we are. We have to see our vanity. We have to see our proud. We have to see everything and face it and work on that. Because when we don't do that, we have a problem. We really have a problem because we are going to think we know what the patient needs.
Yeah.
And we don't know that. We don't know what people need to feel in peace and to feel comfortable in their lives. So I think work on our unfinished business is very important. So we uses a lot of Elisabeth's methods, you know. The most important one, I think, is sessions with draw interpretations. Elisabeth really loved that. The method of draw interpretations was created by Susan Barr and Greg Firth. Greg Firth was a very big, loyal friend of Elisabeth. Gregory Firth, he was a Jungian psychologist, you know, and he developed a method using draw interpretations to find the unfinished business of the dying and the family. And Elisabeth loved that. So use these methods, of course, and a lot of different kind of methods. And of course, Death and Dying Seminar is a very specific activity to find and work on our unfinished business, because when we are listening to the dying and understanding his history, we think about my died aunt, my difficult with my mother, my difficult with, I don't know, life, death, and everything. So we face our unfinished business and we have to work through this. And because, you know, we take care of people, and when we don't work on our unfinished business, bad things can happen. And so if we want a world with unconditional love, with peace, with connections, we have to work on our unfinished business and to see our Hitler, you know?
I know.
Did that.
Yes.
If we want our Madre Teresa grows up, we have to see our Hitler and work on it.
I think everyone has to understand that we all have unfinished business, that there's no judgment here, that no one's saying anyone's not doing a great job, and that if you listen to people at end of life, they can teach you everything about living. And so, and that's part of the unfinished business. And if we can address that now, then our whole lives open up in a way that's limitless when we can let that go. So I love it.
Look at that, Suzanne. Life is a big unfinished business.
It is. I think, isn't that the goal maybe of it?
Yes. Yeah. Just finish when death comes. So
this is very true. So and then you talk about the understanding of unconditional and the importance of unconditional love, and I love this. Yes. Can you share what you mean by that?
Look at that. Unconditional love is a very important concept too of Elisabeth's work and her legacy. Unconditional love means you are important because you are you, and I accept you.
Yeah.
And I accept you the way you are. I accept the way your life goes, you know, I accept everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very important key point, because at the end of life, a lot of people suffers a lot because they don't love themselves.
Right.
So you need to love them, love them, love them, love them until they love themselves again.
Yeah. So you're the mirror to their true soul with no judgment, unconditional love, until finally they can say, I love that. Oh, how beautiful. So can you please tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and find out about your organization, help in any way? What is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm an easy person. You can find me on Facebook. So I'm going to be very happy to talk to everyone about everything. And of course, you can find the website of ekrbrazil.com.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our website. We have a Facebook, so Facebook page,
Great.
Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Brazil.
Okay.
And of course, you can find some more information on the website of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, EKR Foundation.org. So you can talk to Ken Ross, too, the president of the Elisabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation, my boss. So, yes,
he's a pretty good boss.
Yes, and my friend too. So
yes, he's wonderful. So again, we're going to put all those links for everybody on the podcast, so you can easily get in touch with Rodrigo and find out about the Elisabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation in Brazil and the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation USA. Get involved, get some training, have the conversation, because this is about life and we're doing this together. So Rodrigo Luz, I want to thank you so very much for what you are doing to change the world, and you are just such a gift. So thank you for being our guest today on the Ask a Death Doula podcast. It was wonderful.
Thank you. And we are the legacy of Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. We all are. So I think it's the most important. We never forget that. We are the legacy of Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. We have to honor this position.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what an honor that is. So thank you so very much. Thank you everyone for being on this edition of Ask a Death Doula. My name is Suzanne O'Brien, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye everybody.